It all started when my wife's assistant, Leo, leaked confidential company information. When his betrayal was about to be exposed, he took a drastic step to silence me. He pushed me from a fourth-floor window, claiming that I, overwhelmed with guilt, had attempted to take my own life. I was lucky to survive the fall, but my ordeal was far from over. Just as I was preparing to take the real story to the media, my wife, Clara, found a way to silence me again, this time with a hidden dose of medicine that damaged my vocal cords. "He has the core technology the company needs. He won't be fired," she reasoned with me in the hospital, her voice a low, persuasive hum. "But Leo is just a senior in college finishing his internship. If this goes on his permanent record, all his years of study will be for nothing. He'll never be able to find a decent job." She placed a gentle hand on my arm, her touch feeling more like a chain than a comfort. "There's an old saying, you know, once a teacher, always a father. He was the intern you were mentoring. Even a small child knows that when they misbehave, the parents are the ones to blame. It's only right that you take responsibility for this." Listening to her completely twisted logic, I felt a strange calm settle over me instead of the rage I should have felt. A cold, hollow laugh escaped my lips. In that moment, I reached for my phone, the one containing all the proof I had gathered, and deliberately smashed it on the floor. I then publicly confessed, admitting to all the wrongs they had accused me of. Clara, believing she had finally broken me, smiled with relief. She handed me the antidote for the medicine she'd given me, promising that we could finally have that big, healthy baby boy we had always talked about. But she had made a critical miscalculation. She had forgotten that for my work, I always carried a backup phone. That second phone had been recording everything, capturing her and Leo as they openly confessed to their crimes. Once I made that recording public, they would be utterly consumed by the ensuing scandal. They wouldn't just face staggering financial penalties, they would lose their freedom, a fate far worse than death. If a simple apology was enough to fix everything, why would we even need laws? "Do you have any idea how many of our competitors are desperate to get their hands on our silent profit project?" Leo snarled, tearing the apology letter I had written right in front of my face. His anger was so palpable, I thought he might actually spit on me. "Because of you, because the company's secrets were leaked, 100 people have wasted an entire year of their lives. All of our commissions for this year are gone." He was my wife, Clara's newly hired assistant, and the very same person who had tried to kill me. Work at the office had ground to a halt recently. There were no new clients to manage, and the group chats had fallen completely silent. I understood what was happening. I was being systematically isolated. Ever since Leo had successfully pinned the blame on me, the project team had created a new, separate group chat without me. They ignored my work updates, and my colleagues, people I had known for years, acted as if I were invisible. It was a well-organized, premeditated campaign designed to force me out of the company I had helped build. I looked straight at Leo, my expression calm and my voice steady. "If you want me to leave, just say it. You don't need to resort to these underhanded tactics." Before he could respond, Clara walked over to us, her brow furrowed in a display of managerial concern. "Alex, as a manager, you can't just threaten to quit whenever things get difficult. That's incredibly childish. What kind of example does that set for everyone? Besides," she added, gesturing toward Leo, "he's your protege. He would never do anything to harm you. If it wasn't for him pleading your case, you would have been fired by now." A laugh of pure disbelief escaped me. "Wow, what a great intern I have. He had the courage to push me off a 4-story building to keep me quiet. If I hadn't been lucky enough to survive, he'd be sitting in my chair right now." Seeing that I had fallen silent, Leo must have thought I was intimidated. He puffed out his chest and began to lecture me. Alex, let's not even talk about how you constantly targeted me and refused to teach me any of your skills. But now, after you've created this enormous mess, you want to just walk away? Because of what you did, the project's progress has been severely delayed. Are you still planning to keep your core technology a secret? It was only then that I finally understood. Despite the magnitude of my supposed crime, leaking company secrets, the company hadn't fired me because they were desperate to get their hands on my proprietary technology. Years ago, it was this very tech that had transformed the company from a failing software firm on the verge of bankruptcy into a key strategic partner for internet giants. My unique coding methods made our data processing costs half of what our competitors paid, while operating at a much higher speed. You could say that this technology was the foundation of my entire career. I chuckled, finally seeing their entire game laid bare. If you want my technology, you should have just said so. Leo smirked, adjusting his glasses with a fraudulent air of self-righteousness. It's not like you, someone who only thinks about their own self-interest. As long as it benefits the company, who cares who is in control of the technology? The most important task right now is to catch up on our progress and solve the problem. He delivered the lines with such conviction, as if he were a hero fighting for the greater good. Clara nodded in agreement, looking at Leo with a gaze full of admiration. Leo is right. He's focused on solving the real issues, not like some people who just complain with every word they speak. I almost laughed out loud. Of course, everyone wants to solve problems. What really matters is who possesses the solution and the ability to implement it. Ultimately, he wanted to force me to disclose my technology because he was completely incapable of learning it himself. I remembered clearly when Leo first joined as an intern. His code was a disaster, riddled with errors and bugs that significantly delayed our project timelines. But Clara refused to let him go, constantly praising his determination, just as she used to praise mine. Even now, his coding skills were barely at an undergraduate level. Instead of admitting his incompetence, he chose to orchestrate this grand gesture, hoping to secure his position by taking credit for my work. If I refused to hand over my technology, I would become the enemy of the entire project group. Sure enough, the colleagues who had been pretending to be engrossed in their phones suddenly looked up, one by one, urging me to surrender my core technology. Oh, come on, Alex. We're all just trying to make a living here. Why do you have to make it so hard for everyone? Another one chimed in. Yeah, my family is depending on my salary for our mortgage and bills. Don't make us lose our jobs over this. Their complaints made me smirk. I had personally brought many of these people into the company. I had trained them, and teaching them my skills was a gift I gave willingly, not a duty I owed them. Now, as soon as things got difficult, they were all too ready to throw me under the bus. Seeing that no one was speaking up in my defense, Leo looked even more pleased with himself. See, everyone has been upset with you for a long time. Plus, you've been blacklisted from the entire industry for leaking secrets. It's only because Clara and I feel sorry for you that we're willing to keep you around. If you want to keep your job, hand over the tech. Maybe we can even help you improve it. Seeing the dark expression on my face, Clara came to my side, holding out a phone. Come on, Alex, she said softly. Didn't your phone break earlier? I got you a new one. Don't be so stressed out. You can relax a little, work behind the scenes for a while. Later you can help me with the kids at home. Looking at the phone she was offering, my expression turned to ice. She had recovered the phone and had it polished, but she had forgotten to perform a factory reset. The personal hotspot name was still visible, Leo's iPhone. This was clearly Leo's old phone, handed down to her last week. As for the kids she mentioned, that was another painful subject. When she was struggling and had nothing, I had already secured a well-paying job at a major tech company, earning $1 million a year with my skills. To lock me in, she married me in a hurry, without even getting her parents' blessing, and insisted that we have a child as soon as possible. To help her start her own business, I gave up my promising career and quit my job to work with her. But once the company finally started to become successful, she always had an excuse. Things were too unstable, we weren't making enough money, kids were too expensive. She would always tell me to wait, but you never truly have enough money, do you? It just felt like she was dangling a carrot I could never reach. I rejected Clara's offer without a second's hesitation. I don't like using other people's second-hand things. I placed my own phone on the table and pulled my backup phone from my coat pocket. Clara's face changed instantly when she saw that I had publicly humiliated her. So, because you got a new phone, you think you're better than everyone? Fine, quit if you want to. Just don't come crying to me when you can't find another job. I just smiled coldly, looking down at my backup phone. Little did she know it wasn't new at all. It was just my failsafe. And the recordings on it had the power to completely ruin both her and Leo, forcing them to face massive legal payouts and lose their freedom forever. With that thought firm in my mind, I walked out of the office and headed straight for the courthouse to file for divorce. If you're going to make a clean break, you might as well make it absolute. But when it was my turn to speak with the clerk, I was told that the divorce had already been finalized. I was completely stunned. When did I get divorced? Could you check again? Maybe there's been a mix-up with the names. The clerk looked at me as if I were insane. You agreed to it 5 years ago. It was notarized and everything. Your signature is all over the paperwork. If you've lost the certificate, you can pay for a new one over there. Don't hold up the line. 5 years ago. That was right when the company had secured its first major round of funding and was just starting to take off. I remember everyone was ecstatic that day, except for Clara. She seemed unusually on edge, unable to settle down, handling documents by herself in her office. I had assumed she was just nervous about the responsibilities of running a growing company, so I comforted her and helped her quickly organize the paperwork before we went out for a celebratory date. In hindsight, I realized that hidden among those stacks of business documents was probably a divorce agreement. Her anxiety wasn't about the business. It was about her fear that I would demand a share of the profits once the company became successful. The irony was staggering. For 5 years, I had poured my heart and soul into that company, dreaming of building a stable future together with her. It was just so damn ironic to find out we hadn't even been a real couple for most of that time. Since that was the case, I figured I should pack my things and leave for good, to make a truly clean break. But as I approached our home, the acrid smell of smoke hit me, making my throat itch. Why would there be smoke in our house? Clara absolutely despised smoking. I remember once, a couple of years ago during the winter, I came home a bit drunk and lit a cigarette. It was snowing heavily outside and freezing cold, but she kicked me out, telling me I could only come back in when the smell was completely gone. For her, and for the sake of our future children, I had even quit smoking, believing that she genuinely cared about the future we were building. And now, the entire apartment reeked of smoke. Opening the door, I saw Leo lounging on our sofa, puffing on a cigarette as if he owned the place. And Clara, the woman who had always claimed to hate the smell, was sitting right beside him, laughing as they played a video game together. The progress on the screen showed that this was far from their first time playing. Whenever I wanted to play a game to unwind, she would call me a slacker. Now she was so engrossed that she didn't even notice I had walked in. Her phone, which was usually glued to her hand, sat forgotten on the table, its screen glowing with missed calls and messages. But she was too absorbed in Leo's world, a scene reminiscent of our own early days in college. I stood there for a moment, just watching them, before I turned to start packing my belongings. It was only then that Clara noticed me and froze. Leo looked over as well, his expression immediately souring. "Great, you completely ruined the mood. You strut around the office like you're some big shot, but you still came crawling back to Clara." Ignoring him, I continued to pack. Clara seemed annoyed. "Alex, are you leaving? We've been together for years. Don't you have any trust in me? Leo's toilet is broken and he's new to this area. I was just letting him stay for one night so he wouldn't be bored." I glanced over at the collar of Leo's shirt and saw it was smeared with bright red lipstick. A game, my ass. And yet even hearing Clara's flimsy excuse didn't stir any emotion in me anymore. "Yeah, I get it," I said calmly, continuing to pack my suitcase. Realizing that I was serious, Clara finally started to panic. "First you quit your job, and now you're leaving me? What are you trying to do? You need to explain yourself, or if you step out of this apartment tonight, we are finished. We will get a divorce." Her voice was firm, threatening, but her lips were curved in a faint, satisfied smile. This was usually her trump card, the threat that always made me back down. But not this time. This time was different. I stopped what I was doing and pulled out the divorce certificate I had just had reissued that afternoon. I tossed it onto the coffee table in front of her. "Clara, weren't we already divorced?" Clara froze, the certificate in her hand. You knew?" she stammered. "Alex, it was just a safeguard," she tried to explain, but I couldn't even be bothered to look at her anymore. I knew all too well why she had done it. Clara was someone who had always been deeply insecure. Maybe it was because her biological father had abandoned her and her mother when he found out she was a girl, or because she grew up as an unwanted stepchild after her mother remarried, passed around like a burden. Clara had a profound lack of love in her life, which fostered a sense of detachment and suspicion toward everyone. She was terrified of forming close relationships. Until we graduated from college, I was her only friend. Her only love. Ironically, that deep-seated insecurity had gradually twisted itself into a form of controlling obsession. The moment she secretly had me sign those divorce papers for her own peace of mind, the trust between us was completely and irrevocably shattered. Thinking about it all, I pulled my wedding ring from my pocket. This ring, which I had once treasured so dearly, now felt like nothing more than a cold, heavy stone. I threw it on the ground and looked at Clara. "Congratulations," I said. "Your safeguard worked." I turned and walked away without a second thought. I decided to check into a hotel to have a place to stay temporarily. Strangely, I hadn't even started looking for a new job when a headhunter contacted me that very night. Not only did they not try to lowball my salary because of all the negative press surrounding me, but they offered me a position with a salary 3 times what I was making at Clara's company. The only condition was that I had to bring my patented technology with me to prove my abilities. I found the whole situation a bit odd, but the contract they sent over looked perfectly legitimate. After thinking it over, I agreed to meet with them the next day. I arrived at the designated restaurant at the agreed-upon time, but I had to wait for a long while before anyone showed up. Before I could even introduce myself, they stuffed a thick envelope into my hand. I opened it and found it was filled with crisp new bills. Before I could process what was happening, a swarm of reporters descended on our table, their camera flashes blinding me. I realized immediately that I had been set up. Sure enough, Leo and Clara also appeared at the restaurant. Leo, in particular, was putting on a masterful performance, acting completely heartbroken. He pointed a trembling finger at me and said, "I am so disappointed in you. Why won't you change your ways? Leaking company secrets was bad enough, but now you've gone and stolen the company's core technology to sell it to our competitors. How could you do this after all the hard work everyone at the company has put in? How could you betray Clara's trust like this?" Looking at the smug smirk in Leo's eyes, I quickly regained my composure. There were far too many reporters here. This was clearly not something that a junior assistant like Leo could have arranged on his own. I turned my gaze to Clara. "Do you feel the same way?" Clara bit her lip, then let out a feigned, helpless sigh. "Alex, just hand over the technology," she said, her voice filled with mock sorrow. "Heaven is watching. Even if you destroyed all the evidence of you stealing the technology, you can't erase the crime you've committed." In the end, she had chosen the cold, hard value of the technology over my innocence. Years of shared history couldn't compete with her cold-hearted ambition. To completely control me, to force me to hand over my technology, she had left no stone unturned. The reporters, like sharks smelling blood in the water, swarmed me, demanding answers. "Alex, how do you respond to the company's allegations?" "Alex, did your relationship with Clara drive you to sell the core technology? Is it true that you divorced Clara as part of a plan for asset division?" Camera flashes erupted all around me, and microphones were nearly shoved into my face. Leo stood by, a smug grin plastered on his face. "Alex, you're caught red-handed. What else is there to explain?" I looked at them all, and to their surprise, I laughed. "Yes, I admit it," I said, my voice not loud but clear enough for everyone in the room to hear. Clara was stunned, clearly not expecting me to confess so easily. She was about to say something, but I pulled the backup phone from my pocket. Under their shocked gazes, I turned the screen toward the cameras. "But there's one thing you got wrong. The ones trying to steal the technology aren't me, but Clara and Leo. And plus, no evidence was ever destroyed. It was all synced to my backup phone the entire time. Now it's time for the world to see it." Clara's face went completely stiff, as if she'd been doused with a bucket of ice water. From her perfectly styled hair down to her designer shoes, her exquisite makeup couldn't hide the raw panic in her eyes. She looked like a deer caught in the headlights. Leo was initially stunned, but quickly recovered, chuckling with disdain. "Alex, who do you think you're trying to scare?" He walked over to Clara, gently patting her shoulder and reassuring her softly. "Clara, don't worry. He's just bluffing. His little tricks can't fool me." He then leaned in close to my ear, his voice a mocking whisper. "You think I wouldn't expect you to try something like this? Let me tell you, I've already taken care of all the surveillance cameras at the company from that day, especially the ones in the stairwell. That window is in a complete blind spot. It couldn't have caught anything. Even if you do have a backup phone, what could possibly be on it?" Hearing Leo's words, Clara seemed to regain her composure. Her face gradually returned to normal. She took a deep breath and stood tall again. "Alex, haven't you had enough of this? Do you really think pulling a stunt like this will turn the tables? That's just wishful thinking. All you're doing is making a fool of yourself, humiliating yourself even more." She pointed a finger at my nose, her expression one of profound disappointment. "Now hand over your backup phone and apologize. To me, to Leo, and to the company. If you do, we might even consider signing a letter of understanding and not holding you accountable, giving you a chance to make things right." Her superior, condescending attitude was almost laughable. I looked at her coldly and said, word for word, "In your dreams." With that, I ignored them both and played an audio file from the backup phone. I turned the phone's volume all the way up so that everyone present could hear it, loud and clear. "Leo, why did you push Alex? You clearly said you weren't going to kill him." Clara's voice, tinged with urgency, filled the room. "Clara, relax. When have I ever lied to you?" Leo's smug voice followed. "It's just a fall from the 4th floor. The worst that could happen is a few broken bones, nothing serious. But just to be safe, you should head to the hospital and give him some of that throat medicine. It'll make him unable to speak for a while. Once things calm down, you can bring him back to the company. He'll fall in line and he won't leave you." The recording revealed their entire scheme to frame me. exposing their malicious plan and their ugly true natures to everyone. The restaurant fell into a dead silence. Everyone was stunned, unable to believe what they were hearing. Only the recorded voices of Clara and Leo echoed in the space. Clara's face turned as white as a sheet, and she lunged at me, trying to grab my phone. "Alex, turn it off!" But I was prepared for her and easily dodged her attempt. The phone continued to play the recording, making their crimes known to the world. Seeing she couldn't get the phone, Clara tried to defend herself frantically. "It's fake. It's all fake. Do you think you can alter reality with some random recording?" she shrieked, pointing at me with a trembling finger. I looked at her hysterical state and felt the intense irony of the situation. "Clara, are you still trying to deny it? If you're so innocent, why did you try to grab my phone? If you have nothing to hide, why not let everyone hear the rest of the recording?" My words seemed to bring everyone back to their senses. "Yeah, the recording sounds pretty smooth. It doesn't seem like it's been faked. Plus, if it wasn't real, why would she be so agitated? Oh my God, that's just too evil. Teaming up with another man to push her own husband off a building and then even giving him medicine to keep him from talking." More and more doubts began to flood toward Clara and Leo. Leo, realizing the tide was turning against them, immediately started to act pitiful. He clutched his chest, looking heartbroken. "Alex, I've always respected you as my mentor. I can't believe you would do this to me." He staggered, seeming as if he were about to faint. "If I can't prove my innocence, I won't go on living. I'll die to prove my integrity." He made a move as if to crash his head into the nearby wall. The reporters rushed to stop him, not wanting anything tragic to happen on their watch. I had to admit, Leo's performance was quite convincing. "Alex, are you sure you can back up what you're saying?" one reporter asked. "Yeah, Alex, if you have more evidence, show it to us. Stop being so mysterious." Faced with their doubts, I just smiled calmly. "Who says I don't have more evidence?" I slowly pulled a black bank card from the inner pocket of my suit. "This is the hard evidence." I held up the card, waving it in front of everyone. "I opened this account 5 years ago, when the company was just starting. I gave a supplementary card to Clara, telling her she could use it freely." The irony was that this card would now be the key to their downfall. Amid the curious gazes of everyone in the room, I pulled a stack of A4 papers from another pocket. It was the complete transaction record for this credit card. "What is this?" "It's proof of Leo accepting bribes." My voice was icy, and my gaze was sharp as a blade, directed straight at Leo. It was, ironically, thanks to Clara's blind indulgence of Leo. Despite being usually sharp, in her lovelorn state, she had become careless. Over the past few months, Leo had often tried to provoke me by sending me intimate photos of himself and Clara, trying to anger me. During one of his rants, I accidentally saw this card on his desk, and it struck me as odd. The card was clearly mine, so why did he have it? Later, I discreetly checked the transactions and discovered that this card had been used in connection with the company's confidential information being leaked. It was like finding a hidden pearl in plain sight. If Leo knew that the evidence that would convict him was handed to me by himself, I wonder if he would faint right then and there. Seeing the transaction records and the card I had presented, a wave of panic washed over Leo's face. "This is fake! Alex, you're framing me! You're setting me up!" Even as Leo tried to bluster his way through it, people could see the truth. The reporters started murmuring among themselves, their glances darting back and forth between Leo and me. "That transaction record looks legitimate." "Yeah, it has the dates and amounts all clearly listed. If it was fake, why would he react so strongly?" "Looks like Alex is telling the truth. Leo really did accept bribes." "Who would have thought? He looks so young, but he has a heart as dark as ink." Hearing the chatter around us, Clara panicked. She pointed at the bank card in my hand and shrieked, "This card belongs to Alex. He's the one who has been doing shady deals in private. It has nothing to do with me and Leo. I'm calling the police. I want them to investigate." As she spoke, she pulled out her phone to dial. Just at that moment, police sirens wailed outside, growing closer. A few police officers entered the restaurant, heading straight for Leo. Seeing them, he looked relieved and rushed over, his face a picture of misery. "Officer, I've been framed. This man is accusing me of taking bribes. I'm just a recent graduate trying to find a job. What did I do wrong?" He pointed at me, looking sad and innocent. Watching his pathetic act made me feel sick. As the officers got closer, Leo struggled to keep a grin from spreading across his face. Unfortunately for him, he was in for a major disappointment. The next moment, a police officer stood directly in front of him, a pair of handcuffs in his hand. "Leo," the officer said coldly, "you're under suspicion for attempted murder. You're coming with us." Leo was completely dumbstruck as they cuffed him, his eyes wide and his mouth agape, as if he could swallow an egg. "This can't be happening," he mumbled, his face as white as a sheet. Next to him, Clara freaked out even more. She rushed at the officers, grabbing one of their arms. "Officer, you've got the wrong person. There's no way he killed anyone." Her voice was all over the place, shrill and grating like nails on a chalkboard. I couldn't help but smirk. Karma was finally catching up. "We received a call that Leo is suspected of attempted murder. He needs to cooperate with our investigation," the officer said, shaking Clara's grip off with a look of impatience. "A call?" Clara muttered, turning to me with a hateful glare. "Alex, it was you. You called them, didn't you?" I shrugged, feigning innocence. "I didn't call anyone. I just gave them some evidence." The officer added, "With the evidence Alex provided, we reopened the case. We checked surveillance footage from the mall across the street from your office building and saw Leo pushing Alex off the 4th-floor balcony. Another team found the footage by chance while reviewing tapes for a separate theft investigation." The officer's words hit the room like a bombshell, causing an uproar. "Oh my God, there's actual footage!" So Alex wasn't attempting suicide? Leo really pushed him. "That's terrifying! Leo is a monster!" Leo's legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor. His face turned ashen, and his eyes were hollow, like a soulless puppet. The police cuffed him and led him away. Clara crumpled to the ground, looking lost and broken. Watching her, I felt no pity. She had brought all of this on herself. By that afternoon, the news had exploded online. Public opinion flipped in an instant. Tons of people flooded the company's social media pages, tearing into Leo and Clara. A wolf in sheep's clothing, killing for personal gain. I felt sorry for Clara before, but now I see her true colors. We demand justice for Alex and punishment for the murderer. The company's account was quickly reported so many times that it was shut down. Meanwhile, my lawyer was already on the case, gearing up to sue both Leo and Clara. Watching all of this unfold, I let out a long, deep breath. It had been a rocky road, but justice was finally being served. That night, after going out for dinner, I returned to my house to find all the lights on. As I walked in, the delicious scent of home-cooked food filled the air. Pausing, I followed the aroma to the kitchen. Clara was there, cooking. She was wearing a pale pink apron, her sleeves rolled up, busy at the stove. Steam billowed from a pot as she cautiously stirred whatever was inside. I had to rub my eyes to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Clara never used to lift a finger in the kitchen. Forget cooking. She barely even set foot in there. When we first got married, I handled all the cooking while she just had to look pretty and wait for me to serve her meals. Back then, that made me happy. Cooking for the woman I loved was a joy. But after Leo came into the picture, everything changed. She would dash off to Leo's apartment under the guise of work meetings, mooching off his meals and constantly posting on social media about the lovingly prepared dinners he made for her. Meanwhile, I would come home late to a cold, empty house with no hot meal in sight. I ended up ordering takeout most nights just to get by. It seemed like no one cared what I ate anymore. It had been at least a year since I had smelled cooking in my own home, and here was Clara, of all people, making it. I had to be dreaming. She turned around upon hearing my footsteps, a gentle smile on her face. Her tone, her demeanor, it was as if nothing had happened between us, as if we were still a loving couple and the past few months had all been a bad dream. Smirking, I approached her. "Clara, what is this act?" She paused, her smile faltering. "Alex, I know you're mad at me." She set the spatula down and moved closer, her expression pitiful. "But Leo didn't mean to do it. He just acted in the heat of the moment. It was impulsive." Her voice cracked, and her eyes grew misty. "Won't you forgive him? For the sake of our marriage? As long as you sign the letter of understanding, he won't have to face any criminal charges." Listening to her, I couldn't help but find it absolutely ridiculous. "Clara, are you out of your mind?" I pushed her away and went to sit on the couch. "Leo almost got me killed, and you want me to forgive him? When you were drugging me, did you forget that I was your husband? What gives you the right to stand here and try to bargain with me?" The more I talked, the angrier I became, and my voice just kept getting louder. Clara was taken aback by my shouting. She bit her lip and tears welled up in her eyes. "Alex, I know I've done a lot to let you down, but Henry, he really didn't mean it. He was just so scared of losing his job that he started acting desperately." She took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind. "If you promise to forgive him, I'll give you whatever you want. I can get you a raise, a promotion, shares in the company. I can even quit my job to stay home and have a baby if that's what you want." She looked at me, her eyes full of hope. It was as if she expected that if I just nodded, she would throw herself into my arms. Seeing her so humbled, all for Leo, made me sick. The once high and mighty Clara, who used to order me around, was now doing this, letting go of all her dignity for another man and begging me. How sad, how ridiculous. I stood up and started packing my things again. "Clara, give it a rest. Whatever was between us ended a long time ago. All I want now is to leave you and to leave this place that disgusts me." I grabbed my suitcase and headed straight for the door. Clara panicked. She rushed over and grabbed my arm. "Alex, where are you going? Go anywhere. Just don't leave me!" I shook her hand off and looked at her coldly. "Where I go is none of your business. Stay out of it." She was stunned for a moment. Then she suddenly pulled a piece of paper from her bag and held it out to me. "Alex, look at this. Do you really not care about our child?" I froze, my steps suddenly halting. A flicker of hope flashed across Clara's face, as if she had found a lifeline. "Alex, listen to me," she said, stepping toward me, her voice trembling. "I've been feeling unwell and nauseous over the past couple of days. I went to the hospital and found out I'm pregnant." She carefully handed me the pregnancy test report, as if afraid I would doubt her. "Alex, see, it's real. We're having a baby." She looked up at me, tears sparkling in her eyes, which were filled with hope. "Even if it's just for the child's sake, can you give me another chance? Give our child a complete home, all right?" She clung to my arm, as if afraid I would run away. I looked at Clara, my feelings a complicated mess. Honestly, I really do like kids. I used to dream of having a child with Clara, our own baby. A cute little angel who would be as beautiful as her or as smart as me. I would tell them stories, play with them, and teach them how to live. I would give them all my love and be a good dad. Back then, I thought having a child would make our home complete. But now, looking at Clara's face, filled with scheming and manipulation. I just felt a deep sadness. I had stopped loving her a long time ago. Bringing a child into this world now would be the worst kind of harm. Seeing my sullen face and my silence, Clara thought I was wavering, that I was taking the bait. "Alex, just sign the letter of understanding, and I'll completely cut ties with Leo. I promise I'll never see him again," she pledged passionately, almost swearing to the heavens. "I'll give you the whole company. You can do whatever you want with it. I'll stay home, take care of the pregnancy, and have the baby for you, all right?" She looked at me eagerly, her eyes shining. But that shine just made me feel uncomfortable. Once, Clara had been so kind, so innocent. When she first started working, she even felt guilty about exaggerating claims in advertisements, thinking she was cheating people. She cried secretly in a corner over it. Back then, her eyes sparkled with hope for the future and a genuine love for the world. But now, in the brief span of 5 years, she had turned into a woman who would mercilessly use an unborn child as a bargaining chip. Seeing that I was still silent, Clara got anxious, thrusting the crumpled letter of understanding at me. "Alex, just sign it. Once you do, everything will be fine," she urged impatiently. I looked at the letter, finding the whole situation laughable. I snatched it from her hand and tore it into shreds right in front of her eyes. "Clara, I'm telling you, stop dreaming. Leo is done for." Clara's eyes widened in disbelief. "Forget it. Leo was right. He knew you'd never help." Suddenly, she calmed down, a hint of smugness in her tone. "It's a good thing he already had a backup plan. It's just some financial compensation. We give him the money, he schmoozes the right people, and this whole thing will be over." She chuckled, adding, "I've already sold the company. All the money is in his personal account now." Listening to her made my heart drop. Something wasn't right. If the money was really to grease some wheels, why would she so blatantly send it all to his personal account? Before I could speak, there was a sudden, urgent knock at the door. Bang, bang, bang. "Open up, police!" A smug smile spread across Clara's face. "See? What did I tell you?" She looked at me triumphantly, as if she were showing off her victory. "They must be here to release Leo." She rushed to the door and flung it open. A few uniformed officers stood there, their expressions serious. "You're all here too?" Clara's words were cut short by one of the officers. "Clara, Leo is suspected of assaulting an officer and escaping custody. He is now on the national wanted list. Do you have any information about his whereabouts?" "No way," Clara muttered to herself, her eyes suddenly blank. I immediately realized that Leo had taken off with all the money. I quickly spoke up. "Clara just transferred a large sum of money to Leo. It was probably to fund his escape." I shared everything I knew with the police, including my guess about how Leo might have manipulated the company's accounts to transfer the funds. The officers instantly radioed their headquarters, asking for assistance to track the money flow. Through the static on the radio, a clear voice came through. "Report, we've tracked Leo and his accomplices. They have fled to M City." Upon hearing this, Clara was completely freaked out. She grabbed her phone and frantically started dialing Leo's number. She kept trying, again and again, refusing to give up. Finally, on the 10th attempt, the call connected. Joy washed over Clara's face, as if she had found a lifeline. "Leo, where are you? The police are looking for you." Her voice was shaky, with a sobbing tone. On the other end, Leo's voice was impatient. "Are you serious? I needed money, so I made up some excuse to snatch some cash from you, and you actually believed it?" His tone was full of disdain. You lied to me?" Clara's voice trembled even more. "I was just stringing you along. Did you really think I'd be interested in someone who's past their prime like you?" Clara was too angry to even speak. "Enough. Stop bothering me. I'm busy making my getaway." With that, Leo hung up the phone. She collapsed on the floor, her eyes empty, as if her soul had left her body. "I was wrong, Alex. Please forgive me." Her voice was hoarse, filled with tears. "Alex, I'll never dare to do it again. I'll marry you again, and I'll hand over the company to you, okay?" She kept bowing her head, and soon her forehead was bruised, with blood running down her face. I watched her without feeling a single thing. Clara, who was once so kind and innocent, was now just a pitiful person with nothing left. "Let go," I said coldly. "Alex, I'm begging you," Clara cried even harder. I shook her hand off without hesitation and walked away. Later, I heard that Leo was caught by the police just before he could board a ship to leave the country. The amount of money involved was massive, and I heard he was sentenced to life in prison. As for Clara, for drugging me, spreading false rumors, and abuse of power, she was jailed for 3 years on multiple charges. Our company, for various legal and financial reasons, eventually went bankrupt. From the money that Leo had swindled, I took back what was rightfully mine from the police. The rest, I donated to charity. This whole incident made me quite famous in the industry, and with my core skills, I was quickly snapped up by a major tech company as a manager, overseeing a team of over 100 people. Although life is still busy, at least now, I finally have a life that truly belongs to me.